How do I deal with injury setbacks or just in general motivation burnout? This is always a good one to tackle, and I really want to tackle it in my second one because I think this comes up early for anyone that starts wanting to improve their health, wanting to improve their fitness in general. Either you're going to burn out, you're going to just have that one morning where you go, do I have to? No, the answer is no, you don't. You never have to. It's a choice you get to make. I always just live with the mantra of what would the me that did it perfectly, what would they be like? And I've got to beat that person. That's always my mentality to that question. Doesn't really work for everyone. You got to find your own why, I think, to that answer, or the your own answer to that question, or it's really your own why of why you're going to wake up. That's always been mine is, yeah, if I set out it perfectly, and this goes back to when I was racing, my coach would set me a training plan, you'd have your weekly, your monthlies, blah, 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 blah. And I'd always just go, well, what would it look like if I did that to a T? And I've done that a couple times. I won a few races when that happened. So I'd had real world examples of doing it to a T and wanting to be that person. And I still live and breathe that now. Like I think about it in my career. So what would it look like if I delivered certain things to a T? It would look exceptional. Your business would grow, flourish, blah, blah, blah. So you're trying to beat that person. You're trying to beat perfection in that mentality. Again, it doesn't work for all, but it tends to really motivate me in low moments. Of course, you're going to trip up, you're going to stumble. I think the main thing is to ensure one setback is not the recipe for disaster. It doesn't mean you're off the rails. It goes with diets or training or anything in general, really. But one bad day does not equal a bad week. One bad week does not equal a bad month. One bad month does not equal a bad quarter. So you've always got a chance to turn it around as long as you understand that one bad day does not equal it's gone. You will have days you miss, in training or in diets or whatever it is. It's just a matter of fact. You can't live that mentality of, oh, what if I did it perfectly? Of course, I'm going to get motivated enough to always do it. Or injury comes in, which is the next thing I'm going to talk about. But yeah, in general, even with my mentality of I want to always beat that person, I always want to beat perfection, it doesn't work that way. We're human beings. We're going to get setbacks. We're going to have low motivation. And it's just important to know when that happens, it's important to snap out of it quickly. I think that's what true success looks like. You'll have a day you won't train, you won't go for a walk, you won't even maybe even see the sun, whatever it is. It's how you respond to that that makes you better than you. Like at the end of the day, it's you versus you predominantly in pretty much anything you're doing. Of course, I spoke about last episode of wanting to beat people, and that's a big part of my motivations as well. But at the end of the day, it really is just you versus you. And the biggest part of success, I think, is responding to setbacks, failures, blah, blah, blah. It goes very true in training and fitness in general. One bad day, if you respond well to that, as in the next day you're going to make it better though, you're going to come back from that and break the train. You're not going to form a bad habit. You tend to lead to success pretty quickly. Examples of that, to give you a bit of context on my background, and I'll share probably a bit more of this with actual footage pretty soon. I've got to build out my B-roll catalog. I had a back injury and still do. I'm battling that for quite some time now, unfortunately. It all started from an accident. I have to dig up some pictures, a race in China I did. And if you are fortunate enough to get to race your bike in China, you'll know they're very wide open streets. It's incredible infrastructure over there, really, for cycling and racing. It's probably made for it. But the Asian circuit of racing doesn't exactly have the same standards as Europe. At least when I was racing, it was the case. So you had some questionable race finishes, and I was caught up in one of them once. I wasn't having the best tour already at that point, so I resorted to being a lead out man, basically. Not the last lead out man. I'm not quick enough to have ever done that, but about third or fourth in the row, and someone went down directly in front of me. We're doing probably 70, I think maybe 68, 70. It was very quick. I'd wound up the 53.11. Throwback to back in the day where it was just 53.11. And yeah, just straight over someone that, caught 70k an hour, straight over the handlebars, just like that, straight flat pancake on your back. And I could not breathe for quite a bit. being in China, I didn't really want treatment there, so I got myself back. I couldn't obviously finish the tour. I didn't have that stage even. Caught a flight back, saw my physio back in. I'm from Newcastle originally, saw physio back there, and yeah, I did a bit of damage to a disc, basically. Not just a bit of damage, quite a lot. I went through treatment of it at the time, but there's two philosophies I think that happen for treating an athlete. There's elite athlete, need to get back now, has to race next weekend. I did. I had to race next weekend. I was still trying to fight back from another injury I had, trying to save my career, and at the time still wanted to make it to the top peaks, the world tour. So I got rushed back. I did not questionable in terms of, taking cortisols and that, but just shortcuts, little bits of tape and heats and all this stuff just to make yourself feel like you're not actually injured. Newsflash, you're still injured, but enough that you could get back on the bike quickly, get yourself still nice and fit for the next race weekend. That's kind of how, at least in the cycling world, it goes. It's just rush yourself back, keep racing. You'll deal with that injury in the off season. That's, at least when I was racing, that was always the tactic. That's philosophy one. Don't do that ever. I don't recommend it. Go proper rehab, go figure out what the problem is. There would have been an underlying cause. Like, even now I know what I know now. Even though that was a very bad incident I went through, I probably had weak muscles around in my back anyway. And I know this now. I would have had my muscles next to where that is on my spine. And I think for me, it's L3, I think they call it. It's lower back 3 disc, I think is the correct term. I already would have had weaker muscles on the side of that. Now, my background, when I was at NSwiss and then later on in my junior career at AIS, I was very good at core. Like, I was adamant with it. I loved it because I had a very aggressive setup. I was tall for my age quite a long time through junior ranks. So getting aero was difficult. Getting aero anytime you're over 6 foot tall is tough. So I'd look after my core. I loved it because it meant I could be in a very aerodynamic position. After my big injury I had, so I got hit by a car and injured my knee and blah, 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 blah. I fell out of love with the sport a bit. I wasn't doing the maintenance I should have. And what happened off the back of that was, look, my muscles in my back, they I think my physio would confirm this, relied on the work I had done. Like, I'm a tall person. Tall people tend to have more strains on their different muscle groups, and particularly back. But back injury is pretty common for tall people. For reference, I'm 6'3", 6'4". So at that time, I had very good core muscles that dropped off a cliff. My back already was in a state of, look, it was okay. It was probably propped up a little bit. If I'd really thought about it, there's probably other races and times where I'd complained about my back to the Swanee. For those listening that aren't in cycling, Swanee is just basically a general person who looks after yourself in a team. Like, they do just your washing, they do a bit of massage work, all that kind of stuff. So I would have complained about my back, I don't know, a lot of times, I'd assume. I can recall complaining about my back racing. And that would have been after my knee injury, when I stopped doing a lot of my core work that I should have. So maintenance is always important, and that's what I've learned here. So what I'm talking about really is I've faced a lot of setbacks from injury as well as motivation. And they're two separate things from each other, but the way you bounce back, they overlap. They're the same thing. So injury prevention, very important for injury setback for sure. But the reason why I stopped injury prevention, so my core work, was the same reason you might stop working out or stop training. Just got lazy. I couldn't be bothered. At that point in my career, I was giving up on the dream, basically. I was like, I'll keep doing this. I'll see what happens. But, at the end of the day, I think I was starting to realize riding a bicycle was life or death, basically. And I cheated death maybe one too many times. So I was like, not too sure I want to keep rolling the dice here. Look, my motivation towards doing it professionally and really looking after your body had waned. And even though I had the perfect excuse of injuring my back in this tour, reality is I probably could have bounced from that much quicker than I did. And later in my life, now that I'm almost 30, touch wood, I don't like saying that, I probably wouldn't have the back issues I do. So I think what I wanted to touch on with this whole injury component speech that I made is early prevention for anything is key. And just in general, maintenance is one of the best things you could do. I don't mean go join a gym and go hardcore and really build your muscle groups. By all means, do that if you're motivated to do that. But just simple things you can do around the house. Get yourself a dumbbell off Amazon. I did that. I've got a little 10 kilogrammer over there. I'm not big, the arms are still chicken wings, but it's enough that, that's enough to build preventative muscle groups. And that's what you're trying to do, because there is plenty of data out there, like I said in the last episode. I'm going to show different bits of research, but there's plenty of different people have spoken quite a lot about this one in particular. Building muscle after 40, very difficult. So what I'm focusing on now at 29, I want to do all the right stuff now. So when I'm in my 40s post, it's just maintenance. It's easy. You just keep doing what you're doing. You're just looking after your body. And that's very key. Now, what I touched on right at the start, that's what I'm looping in here. I still have that drop the same way everyone does it's particularly for maintenance work. So at the moment, for reference, I'm going to show you what I am building, but I know what's going to happen. So I do core work, very light amount of it. And I'm starting running after my Tour de Brisbane goal. So there's a couple things I'll walk you through why I'm doing what I'm doing, but I'm going to need to build muscle groups to prevent injury. And I have a pretty good engine. And I've had a good talk with one of my mates about running and how I struggle with it so much. It's technically because I don't have the right muscles around myself to support the running. So I don't actually get to use my engine. I'm just stuck with, oh my God, my hip flex is just dying because I don't use it properly. Anyway, so I need to focus on injury prevention or just preventative muscle groups and just building them up. The reason why I'm touching on that is, look, to me, this is the easiest way to relate to a lot of people, where I find that particular exercise boring. It's not really, how do I say it? So I've got goals, right? I've got my cycling goal, I've got a running goal. I find it easy to do those two trainings because there's a goal, there's a thing I want to beat. And I said that last episode, where having that thing you got to beat, and that's the highlighter right there. You got to beat something, whether it's just finished a race, finished a half marathon, finished a 10K, or win it like I'm trying to do, or when I get onto the 10K, which I'll talk about, just break 40 minutes. They're things you're going to be excited to do. That's really motivating. How are you going to do it? Obviously training and doing the thing. How are you going to actually make sure your body can do it? That's what I'm trying to touch on now. So you're going to have to make your body adapted to it, different preventative muscles, not to get yourself injured, because that's a big setback. So what you could do to limit that now, for me, my back is a big one. As I said, I injured it already once majorly. I've already had it flash up before. So a little while ago, I was hardcore into golf. I loved it. I'm going to touch on this in later episodes as well, but I went hardcore at trying to be good at it and realized I'm not ever going to be. And I call myself still pretty good at riding a bike. So I always have that as my baseline. Like, I should be this good in this sport and this sport and this sport, and collecting all these different sports, and then going back to cycling as the thing I should be good at, neglecting the fact that I've done cycling for 25 years. So yeah, you'd hope you're pretty decent at a sport after 25 years. But I apply the same level to any sport I do. And golf was something I did that too. Burnt out of it. Hate the sport for a while. Starting to get the interest in it again and playing, not really, but semi-regularly. So when we talk about this injury prevention stuff, and the importance of it is to mitigate setbacks. That's the goal of any injury prevention program. And it's also to make doing the actual sport easier. So running's a good example here, and it's one I'm going to talk on. I'm going to switch over to my web view now, and we'll see, that's my background. We'll see my first big goal is right here, Tour de Brisbane. This is on the bike. I've got 80 days, right? I think I'm there. I know I'm going to be first group currently, but ultimately, I'm trying to win this. So I've got a little bit more to go. I don't need to do so much injury prevention for this one. mostly because my muscle groups are good. The only thing I do need to worry about is my back, which I do some basic stretching just to ensure the muscle's always pretty happy there. My other big goal, and the one I'm going to focus more talking about for this topic, is this one right here, the Gold Coast 10K. Now, I'm not a runner, and I complain about running to anyone that will listen. I suck at it. This one is in 23 weeks. Now, I'm not going to start running at all until this goal is finished because I'm focusing hardcore on trying to win it. Now, I need to be a cyclist to win it, not a half hybrid athlete. So I'm going to start training in this one after the Tour de Brisbane. But that being said, as I've already said, and will constantly tell anyone that will listen, I suck at running. What could I do between now and when I'm going to start training for this? So in 80 days time, basically, because I'll start training for the Gold Coast Marathon, 10K, in 80 days at the end of this race. So I have 80 days of maintenance work I could potentially be doing. Now, I don't often talk a lot about AI. I have a bit of a background in it. I know how to utilize a bit of it. Now, what I'm going to show is the most basic form I could do. I've just built myself asking pretty basic questions of what's a run program or strengthening run program I could do, and I plugged in the dates. So the fact I've got 80 days. What could I do between now and 80 days to make myself ready for elite level running? Because I'm trying to break 40 minutes for 10Ks. That's my goal at the Gold Coast 10K up there on the Gold Coast. Tongue twister. And it's given me this, which is actually really good stuff. I looked into it myself, but this all actually really makes sense. Of course it would. It's AI. It's just based off what's already out there. So I've got a list of exercises to do. It estimates doing it. I've given it what I'm already doing as well. So my background in cycling, what I'm training for. And it's just given me a program that's rather easy to follow. It's broken everything down. I'm going to get videos like I've already shown here. I've got this nice little barbell RDL movement I need to do, which is great. But to make it even simpler, because this whole topic is about what do you do when you're trying to get set, you're dealing with setbacks. One big thing that's the most easiest excuse for any setback or to trigger a setback is too difficult, couldn't find that video, didn't know how to do it, didn't even know what I was meant to do today. I had no plan. Build yourself a plan. Simple. You can do it. I've just got one from ChatGPT for free. I didn't have to pay a coach, didn't have to pay a PT, didn't pay for any program online, any of that nonsense. You could also go on YouTube and find this stuff. No real issues, but I'm lazy. I just like ChatGPT. And what I've been doing is simply just copy pasting it into Training Peaks. So I showed Training Peaks last episode. It's a great tool just to plan out your weeks and plan out what you're trying to do. And I'm just literally building it in. So I've already built the Bulgarian splits in. You can see I'm meant to do 3 sets of 8 reps, and I'm just copy pasting it from what ChatGPT has told me. So up here you got your Bulgarian splits. I'm meant to do 3 sets of 8. That's all popped in here. I'm going to build out each week. So I'll share this next episode when it's fully finished and show you what I mean by how good it is to pre-plan this stuff. But I'll slowly build weights in. At the start, there'll be no weight. It'll just be body resistance. There might be some bands I do for some of the resistance work, but yeah, it's going to be that simple. Now, the big reason or the big psychological trick to this is I now know what I have to be doing. So I've removed an excuse. Excuses for humans are one of the worst things. We're all victim to it. Now, I liken it to my Zwift setup behind me, which I'll move out of the way, but it's a nice little smart bike. It's always there. It's always ready to go. If I can't be bothered to ride on the road, I can be bothered to ride on Zwift because it's just sat there. It's ready. It's easy. Throw Nicks on, jump on. Takes 2 minutes and I'm at home. Simple. I've removed the biggest excuse possible. I have to kit up. I have to think about my tires, my water, my nutrition. I'm going to be an hour from home, blah, 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 blah. Enough things for me to say no. So I've just removed it. I've gone, nah. Oh, well, I know what I'm meant to do now. Simple. Same thing with something I know I hate, which is maintenance work. Because it actually is very good. I'm a big believer in it. But in terms of my goal, and I'm a goal motivated person, it doesn't actually tick the box of making me make myself hit that 40-minute target or break the 40-minute target. But it will. That's the big catch there. It will unlock the ability for my body to do it. So it'll unlock the training I'm going to be having to do to break 40K. And that's the importance and the power in the maintenance work. However, I hate it because it's not the sport. I'm not doing the thing. I'm not seeing the progress immediately. So I will always have setbacks with it. That's lesson one to remove a setback is do something to prevent it happening. So either preventative work for the main thing, the main goal, or in this work instance with Training Peaks, I've prevented myself an excuse. I didn't know what I was going to do that day. I didn't know how to do that thing because I'm putting videos in. So I'm just doing tricks. And that's kind of what it is. It's just a pattern, I guess. Once you know yourself well enough and do deep reflection, I know why I won't do something. Okay, simple. I now know why I won't do it. Okay, what do I got to do to make sure I do it? Simple as that. Way easier said than done, of course, but there's plenty of tools out there to make that possible. Now, I think I'm going to wrap this up with basically, I'm trying to normalize and show the history I've been through of we've all had those setbacks. Now, I can show the extreme, my knee or my back, which both have set me back in differing sports after cycling. So golf, which I got myself down to a 16 handicap. I injured my back. I couldn't really play the sport anymore. Once I fixed my back and came back, I was back at like a 22 handicap. Cracked me. I had to have time off from it to go back to the sport again without that level of need to be the best. It's okay not to be the best at the sport is what I learned through that program, that whole thing. But yeah, what I'm trying to show you there is you will have setbacks. That's just life, whether it's injury, low motivation, you've got kids, you've got commitments, work, blah, 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 blah. It's going to happen. And it's okay. Like it happens to all of us, whether you're a professional athlete like me when I did my back or my knee, that's okay. But it's how you're going to respond to it. That's the answer. I always say, and I've said this in my careers, like after the bike and as a leader, as a manager, I'm okay with mistakes always. So setbacks in this instance. What I'm not okay with is the response. That's pretty much my philosophy to any tackling of a setback. I'm okay with it happening. You have to accept it. We're human beings. There's errors, there's mistakes, there's trials. That's how we become better actually, in fact. But it's the response. So if you respond to it and you say, you know what, I'm going to take that on and the next day I'm going to break that. I'm not going to let it be a habit. I'm not going to not exercise tomorrow. I'm going to go out for the walk. I'm going to go out for the run. I'm going to just go and write in a book or whatever it is you're trying to do. Great. I give that a massive tick. I'd give you, if I was a coach on your Training Peaks, I'd give you whatever the box is, the happy box. I'd tick you for that. But you're doing the right stuff. If you choose to go the next day and say, oh, I didn't do it the day before, I'd start to be unhappy with you. If you chose to let that form into a habit, I'd be very unhappy with you. That's where I think you actually need a bit of a shaking. You need to wake up to yourself basically at that point. What I'm highlighting is basically it's okay to have a stumble, a trip, a injury even. Those things are okay. It's how you're going to respond. That's the big thing to focus on. It's the response to. So the next time you're a little bit, unmotivated, try the tactics that work on you to get yourself on. But if it fails and you don't get on that day, or you don't do that maintenance piece of work, or you don't write in your book that day, or whatever it is, tell yourself it's okay, but I have to do it tomorrow. That's the big thing. But I have to do tomorrow. And make it a commitment to yourself verbally, to your mates, whoever it needs to be, that yes, I need to be out tomorrow. And that's the big thing for me. Like if I look at my back even, that's what's gotten me back to a normal place. So my back, there's been days where I didn't want to get it treated and I'd say no, but I had to call the physio and book myself in again and make sure I actually got treated. Or there's been days where I didn't want to do the maintenance work, but I still wanted to ride my bike. So I didn't do it one day, but now I'm going, wow, I really want to ride on the weekend. I'm going to have to do it. So I committed to it. I made a commitment to myself. Okay, you're not going to do it today, but you're getting up at 5 a.m. tomorrow to make sure it happens. Okay, I'll actually do that. And you'll be shocked. You will actually do it because you've made a commitment to yourself. Overall, though, I think it's all about being okay with a setback. That's the biggest thing I could leave you with the takeaway of this. Once you're okay with it, it's then how you respond. And you cannot be okay with forming a bad habit in your responses. Once you've made a verbal commitment to yourself to come back better than ever, proof's in the pudding that you're only going to get better. All right, guys, that is it for this log. We will be back normal schedules next Sunday, well, this Sunday coming. Reason for the delay this time was I was actually over in Adelaide for TDU, so I was a little bit delayed, but no worries on the training side. I've got plenty of running in, so I'm achy leg, but I'm back on the bike already. Be fourth session actually this afternoon for me. Cool. All right, guys, till next time.